Welcome to TV Africa News. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Nahaba Kajura, and in the headlines. Don't form alternative governments, Museveni tells culture leaders. Government lays strategies to have details of older persons. French top court closes probe into 1994 shooting down of Rwandan presidential plane. In our sports today, Arua Hill to Tubul, a 4-goal affair at Barifa Stadium. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. We start with one of our top stories. Now, the President of Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, has appealed to culture leaders to desist from forming alternative governments in their communities, noting that they should instead play their role of adding value to Uganda. We have the details.
The President, while speaking during the function to celebrate the life of Emorimori Augustine Osborn Lemukol, the Iteso culture leader who died on February 5, 2022 from Mulago Hospital, said that the reason why cultural institutions were restored was to help the government connect with its people in different countries. Museveni saluted the role of Teso Cultural Institution in particular and other cultural institutions in Uganda for promoting unity and culture that has contributed to the development of Uganda. He said that the problem of Africa has never been anything else but rather poor governance. The President said that NRM is a group of people that came because of what was going on at the time to change the destiny of Uganda and Africa. He said that Uganda is on a long journey of development and whatever government does is deliberate and well thought of. The President commended the late Emorimori Osborn for uniting the people of Teso in Uganda and others living in countries like Kenya, South Sudan and Ethiopia. On the issue of development, Museveni saluted the late Emorimori for working towards developing his community in particular and Uganda in general. The Vice President, Major Jessica Alupo, applauded the President for restoring the cultural institutions which have played a big development role.
Moving on in our top stories, government has called upon older persons to look out for information of the registration exercise of the elderly at their respective districts and get registered in order to enable them easily access government programs. We have the report.
While addressing journalists at the Government Media Center in Kampala, the State Minister for Elderly Affairs in the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, Honorable Jidudu Mafwari Dominic, said many elderly persons above the age of 80 were either registered with incorrect information on their national IDs or not registered at all, hence urging them to go and register at their respective districts to enable them easily access government programs such as the Social Assistance Grants for Empowerment, under which government provides a monthly grant of 25,000 shillings to older persons.
I'm happy to inform you today that following consultations and discussions that have been going on, the two ministries have agreed to undertake a remedial NIRA registration exercise specifically targeting older persons to capture all those who have not registered for the national ID. This exercise started on 14 February 2022. Affected older persons are advised to look out for information on when this registration will take place in their district and the locality.
An assessment taken by the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development shows that the national ID-related challenges have affected about 54,559 older persons, which excludes them from receiving the senior citizens grants.
Of these, 11,000 have not registered with NIRA, while another 43,559 registered but have wrong details on the IDs.
The exercise kicked off on the 14th of February 2022. The Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development and the Ministry of Internal Affairs have pledged to work with the district local government to schedule the remedial registration exercise in areas that district local governments will communicate. The minister also called upon all stakeholders to mobilize the affected persons to look out for this exercise in their districts. Nalgo Muyingo, Africa Today.
Former Prime Minister, also Uganda's Special Envoy to South Sudan and Ethiopia, Amama Mbabazi, has been named to head the African Global Security Foundation, a continental security think tank charged with sharing ideas and information in regards to the security situation in Africa. Speaking to the media at his home in Kololo, former Prime Minister Amama Mbabazi said that African Global Security Foundation was set up by Congo, Brazzaville, DRC, Mauritius, Senegal, Togo and Uganda. He added that it will be open to all African states who subscribe to its objectives and willing to participate in it, and will be giving security briefing to members states through established organs. He said the ultimate target of the body will be to contribute to shaping of members' state foreign policies and help build a safer and more stable African continent. Asked whether the new body doesn't contradict the African Union Peace and Security Council, Mbabazi dismissed the same as untrue. The development comes in the wake of recurring coups, especially in West Africa. Several governments, especially in West Africa, have in the past 3 years been overthrown, with the one in Burkina Faso being the latest. At the end of last month, the military overthrew President Roch Marc Kabore in the fourth coup in West Africa in the last 17 months, with 2 military takeovers in Mali and failed attempt in Niger. Recently, DRC President Felix Tshisekedi is also said to have survived the coup after it was foiled while he was away in Ethiopia for the African Union Summit. The creation of the organization with its headquarters in Dakar, Senegal, comes on the backdrop of a meeting in Congo-Brazzaville on security and coups, and also attended by President Museveni. Thank you so much, our reporter. We take a quick break. We shall come back with the international news. Welcome back from the break. You're watching TV Africa, the right to know. In our international news today, France's top court definitely closed a probe into the 1994 shooting down of the Rwandan presidential plan in an attack that killed former President Habyarimana on the eve of the genocide. Now, on Tuesday, the French highest court dismissed an appeal by relatives of the April 1994 victims. Take a look at the story.
When family members of the French flight crew brought their case to court in 1998, they suspended Rwandan soldiers and closed Kagame aides, including Rose Kabuye, of being behind the attack. However, the court cassation found no sufficient charges against anyone for committing the alleged crimes, nor any other infraction, defending their dropping the case in December 2018. It confirmed the 2020 decision of the Court of Appeal of Paris and dismissed French magistrate Jean-Louis Bruguière's conclusions when he began his probe 22 years ago. The decision ends a long-running investigation into the shooting down of the Rwandan presidential plane, which strained France and Rwanda's relations. The attack of President Juvenal Habyarimana's plane upon his return from Tanzania with Burundian President Cyprien Ntaryamira is known as the event that sparked the Rwanda genocide. Following this attack, a civil war erupted and saw the killing of more than 800,000 people.
Moving on in international news, Tigrayan fighters deliberately killed civilians and gang-raped dozens of women and underage girls in 2 towns in Ethiopia's Amhara region last year, according to Amnesty International, the latest example of the horrific toll exacted by the 15-month war. More details in this report.
Amnesty International, the rights watchdog, interviewed 30 rape survivors, some as young as 14 and other victims of violence, to draw a picture of the atrocities in Chena and Kobo in August and September after rebels from the Tigray People's Liberation Front seized control of the towns. Nearly half the victims of sexual violence say they were gang raped, with doctors telling Amnesty that some survivors had suffered lacerations likely caused by rifle bayonets being inserted into their genitals. A 14-year-old schoolgirl told the rights group she and her mother were both raped by TPLF fighters who say the attacks were in revenge for atrocities committed against their own families. The investigation follows the publication of an Amnesty report in November, which documented sexual assaults by Tigrayan rebels in the Amhara town of Nifas Mucha. Evidence is mounting of a pattern of Tigrayan forces committing war crimes and post-war crimes against humanity in areas under their control in the Amhara region from July 2021 onwards. Residents of Kobo said TPLF fighters shot dead unarmed civilians, apparently in a revenge killing spree after facing resistance to their advance by Amhara militias. The watchdog said its satellite imagery analysis revealed the existence of the new burial sites referred to by the villagers.
Moving on, Burkina Faso's junta leader, Lieutenant Colonel Paul Henri Damiba, was sworn in as president on Wednesday, less than a month after mutinous soldiers seized control of the West African country in the coup. Now, the ceremony, not open to the general public, was held at the Constitutional Court. Take a look at the story. Damiba seized power, promising to secure the war-torn country from growing violence linked to AL and the Islamic State group fighters that have killed thousands and displaced more than 1.5 million people. In a televised ceremony, Damiba swore an oath before the country's top constitutional body to preserve, respect, uphold, and defend the constitution, the nation's law, and the Fundamental Act key decisions approved by the junta. Damiba was dressed in camouflage uniform and a red beret and wore a sash in the colors of Burkina Faso's national flag. The press, but no foreign representatives, attended the ceremony in a small room at the offices of the Constitutional Council. On January 24th, Damiba, 41, led disgruntled officers to force out Kabore following public anger over his handling of a bloody jihadist insurgency. Last week, the Constitutional Council formally determined that Damiba was president, head of state, and supreme commander of the armed forces. Since taking control, Damiba has met with security forces, civil society, diplomats, and politicians, but has not set a timeline for a return to democracy, something that international community has said must be done as soon as possible. Away from that, a South African court has dismissed former President Jacob Zuma's attempt to remove the prosecutor from his upcoming corruption trial. Now, Zuma's lawyers sought to appeal an earlier ruling that rejected his effort to have the prosecutor taken off his corruption case. More details in this report. The application was dismissed on Wednesday by Pietermaritzburg High Court Judge Piet Cohen on the grounds that Zuma's attempt to remove the prosecutor lacks reasonable prospects of success. Zuma, South Africa's president from 2009 to 2018, before he was ousted by his African National Congress party amid wide-ranging allegations of corruption, had urged that lead prosecutor Billy Downer is biased against him. His lawyers accused Downer of leaking confidential information about his case to the media and being a witness in a separate case against him by the opposition party, the Democratic Alliance. The efforts to have Downer removed have delayed the start of Zuma's corruption trial, which is now scheduled to begin on April 11. Zuma is accused of receiving bribes from French arms manufacturer Thales through his former financial advisor, Sheikh, who was convicted and sentenced on related charges in 2005. Downer led the prosecution and resulted in Shafiq's conviction. Zuma's lawyers still have the option to petition the country's Supreme Court of Appeal, which could further delay the corruption trial. Well, thank you so much, our reporter. We take a quick break. We shall come back with business, health, and sports. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. In the business news today, Nigeria's state-run oil company said it had started a 24-hour distribution of petrol to service stations to end a week-long scarcity that has caused traffic snags in major cities. Now, the fuel shortage, which started last week in the commercial city of Lagos and administrative capital Abuja, has caused long queues with few petrol stations selling the product.
Transport fares have gone up in several cities, curtailing services and forcing some residents and workers to walk long distances to their destinations. Most homes in Nigeria also rely on petrol and diesel to power their generators as the public power supply is unreliable and prone to blackouts. The state-run Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation blamed the situation on importation of adulterated petrol by 4 oil marketers into the country. The company said in a statement late on Tuesday that measures including around-the-clock distribution to service stations had begun. The NNPC has also directed oil marketers, depot owners and service stations to begin 24 hours loading and dispensing activities in some of their designated outlets. The NNPC said it had enough stock to end the shortage, while more supplies were expected by the end of February. It said a monitoring team comprising security agents to ensure smooth distribution of fuel nationwide had been set up. The company appealed to Nigerians to avoid panic buying, adding that its measures would restore normalcy in a few days.
In Africa Today Health, Tanzania is looking to set up its own vaccine manufacturing plant as part of its wider plan to tackle COVID-19 and other diseases in the country. According to a statement from the State House, President Samia Suluhu Hassan said the country was also aiming to export vaccines to East and Southern African countries. She said Tanzania was likely to spend nearly $100 million by 2030 to import vaccines, hence the need to set up its own local capacity. The president, who was visiting the European Union Council, President Charles Michel, in Brussels, said she was submitting a proposal for support to make the project a success. The plan for a vaccine plant is a shift from the previous regime of her predecessor, John Magufuli, a prominent coronavirus skeptic, who died last year from heart complications. Since Magufuli's death in March, President Samia Suluhu Hassan has changed Tanzania's pandemic management, joining COVAX in order to receive the doses. In our sports news today, Arua Hill was denied maximum points at the death of their game during a 2-2 draw with Visiting Bull during match day 18 of the Uganda Premier League on Wednesday, February 16th, 2022 at Barifa Stadium. Now, Samuel Kayongo, Sekamate and Wahab Gaddafi were on target for the hosts. Take a look at the story. Karim Ndugwa, an alert penalty from Simon Peter Okech gave Bull some reason to smile with a point back home. Ndugwa scored his first ever goal at Bull since his January 22 transfer in the 16th minute. Sekamate brought the game level with a great free kick 10 minutes later. Arua Hill took command of the game for the first time, Wahab's goal on the stroke of half-time. It was perhaps Bull that had the last smile when Okech beat goalkeeper Eric Chibowa from 12 yards. Okech's penalty followed a foul by Rashid Toha on Ndugwa in the forbidden area. Wahab was named Pilsner Man of the match, taking home a plucky and cash worth 100,000 shillings. Bull secured a precious point in their 16th draw of the season as they now have 30 points from 18 games in 4th position. Arua Hill remained 6th with, after the draw, their 5th of the season with 29 points. Meanwhile, Toro United and Sports Club Villa shared the spoils during a 1-1 stalemate at the Buhinga Stadium, Fort Portal, on the same day. It is at this particular time that I thank you for being part of us and always joining us. It is Africa Today. Thank you so much for being part of us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We shall keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the right to know.